Greetings and welcome to my video. This is a video about my trip to St. Louis. It's the first time that I have ever been there. I don't live close to St. Louis, but I do have some friends that moved to Kansas City about 4 years ago. And so for the last 4 years, I've been flying out to see them about once a year. Kansas City is a wonderful city, but it's gotten to be where I've seen just about everything there. So on this last trip, I figured I'd expand my horizons and what the heck? Take a road trip to St. Louis for a few days and see what's there. So here we go. My first stop was, of course, Kansas City, and this is the street where my friends live. As you can see, it's a little rustic. The road is not paved, but this is a beautiful area, as so many parts of Kansas City are. I personally love it, and I think my friends have a pretty good setup here. So here's the local Cineplex mall in Harrisonville. It's not too far from where my friends live. We always go see a movie during my visits, and it's almost always a Marvel Comics film. As a matter of fact, that is my favorite excuse to fly out and see my friends, is to see the latest superhero movie. So we went and saw the movie and had a good time. It was a great flick as always. I hung out with my friends for a few more days and then headed out on my trip. Here's me on the road and heading towards St. Louis on the other side of the state. As you can see, the sky is quite overcast, and it stayed that way for most of my trip. And for a guy like me who likes to take pictures, that is not good news. I would actually cut a very lucky break with the weather when I really needed it, but for the most part, it was cloudy and rainy the whole time in St. Louis. I arrived and checked into this Super 8 motel in Bridgeton, which is about 20 miles northwest of St. Louis. It's part of the greater St. Louis. It was the cheapest deal Priceline had at the time. I usually go pretty cheap on my living quarters for my trips. So here's my room and abode for the next 3 days. Not too bad. I've stayed in many Super 8s, and some are better than others. I thought this was fine. I don't like getting too fancy as far as where I stay, because when I'm on a trip, I'm there to see that place and not my living quarters. It's just a place to sleep, and I thought this was perfectly adequate. The next day, my main goal was to go see the Gateway Arch. Now, I don't know if you ever saw National Lampoon's Vacation when Arthur Griswold, played by Chevy Chase, took that wrong turn in St. Louis and ended up in the worst part of town. This was my big fear about being in St. Louis, was taking that wrong turn. And as I was trying to get to the arch, I sure took it. And this is where I ended up. Okay, so here I am. I don't know where I am. This looks a little scary. And it was actually GPS that took me here, believe it or not. I missed my turnoff because I got confused about a sign that said the Martin Luther King Bridge was closed, so I kept going. I got off the freeway at the next exit. I turned around. I put all my faith in GPS, and this is where it led me. Here's another picture I took during the second wrong turn adventure. This is the Martin Luther King Bridge, so I know I'm somewhere close to the first wrong turn I took. I did manage to find my way back to the freeway, and then for some crazy reason, I figured I'd put my faith in GPS just one more time. Alright, so I get back on the freeway. I'm heading on the 44. I'm going kind of northbound, and I've got the GPS going, but for some reason it stops talking to me. It's still working, it's still on my phone, and I look at it. but it's not talking to me. And so I can see a turn coming up, but there's kind of thick traffic, and I'm not quite sure where to turn. Now, where the GPS was telling me to turn, it was actually telling me to turn right off here, off this exit, and this was going to get me probably somehow maybe over here and get into the arch. I don't know. But either way, that was where it was telling me to go. But I turned early, and I go off here, and that gets me on the 64 going right across the Mississippi River. And there was no turning back until I got to the other side of the river. And when I looked across on the other side of the bridge and I saw traffic backed up for a few miles, I said, no way. I am not going to try to get back to the arch again. This is the third time I have gotten lost. I'm going to do something in Illinois today. I have no clue what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to try to see the Gateway Arch today. I am going to spend the day in Illinois. So I get across the river, and I'm just going wherever. I don't know where I'm going. The blue route on the map shows where I went and ended up. I was just going randomly. I see a sign on the freeway that says Cahokia Mounds State Park, next exit. Now, I have heard of the mound builders. I know they were an ancient civilization that flourished in the Midwest part of the country, and ruins of their civilization are all over the Midwest. But I have never seen any of these mounds. And so I figured this is something I can do to perhaps salvage this day. So I take the exit where that blue arrow is, and I start following the signs to the park. This is actually the first place I stopped. This Foodland was right off the freeway. I didn't buy anything. I just went in and walked around. I just needed to stretch my legs out for a bit. And maybe I wanted to build up just a little anticipation for the mounds before visiting. I, of course, didn't know exactly where I was, but I have since learned that this is in Collinsville, Illinois. This is about where I parked my car, and this is the first picture I took. That was the first mound I saw. Now, that mound is actually across the street. There are mounds on both sides. I would eventually make my way over to the other side and have a look over there, but this is the side that I stopped on, and it was actually the right side to pick first. Another thing that you'll notice is that the sky is clearing up. There is some blue that is showing through there, and this was that one time I talked about when the sky was not completely overcast. It actually cleared up. Here's a path to a nice little picnic area, and that is going west, but I did not go that way. I went this way. This is the direction where the mounds are located, and because the clouds cleared up at the perfect time, I was able to get some excellent photos. So what I'm going to do for a minute or two is just be quiet and show you some of the great pictures I got of this wonderful state park. Okay, I'm back at my car now. I really enjoyed that walk. That was absolutely beautiful. I'm now heading over to the other side of the park to hike up to the top of Monk's Mound. Monk's Mound is the tallest mound in the park, and from the top there is a very nice view of the surrounding area, and I was able to get some very nice pictures up there as well. So let's head on over. Cahokia State Park was such a great experience. I think it's a good spot to end on for part one. There were a few other things I did that day, and the next day I did make it to the arch, though not without some difficulty. But I'll talk about that in the next video, part two. Thanks for watching.